Okay, shalom everybody. Today we'll talk about the judgment that leads to what happens to us after we die. Um, it is a very fundamental Jewish belief that our soul does go up to heaven and does have the reward and punishment for the deeds that we did in this world. God does consider the fact that we did have a physical body and therefore we had all kinds of urges that may have clouded our decisions and choices, but we do believe that there is a world to come, and therefore it's something important to talk about. Um, the Torah itself does not mention the next world, but the Talmud quoted from a few different sources proof that there is a next world, and the primary source is Az Yashir, that the Song of the Sea. It says that Moses will sing, and the people of Israel will sing, and of course they sang. So why would it be written in the future tense? And the answer of the rabbis is this is proof for the resurrection of the dead. So here's the following story, which is resurrection of the dead in, in our time, 1800 years ago, but in this world, not in the next world. So Rabbi Abau says they asked King Solomon, who is one who is destined for the world to come? King Solomon said to them, all those about whom it is stated, and before his elders will be his glory. So this is talking about, it says in Hebrew, kavod, referring to those who are honored in this world due to their wisdom, because Solomon was the wisest man ever alive. This is like the incident involving Yosef, son of Rabbi Yoshua, who became ill, according to other translations, and it says fainted, but instead we can say that he passed out. He had actually what's called a clinical death, and he came back to life. And so his father, when he returned to good health, his father said to him, "What did you see when you were not conscious?" Yosef said to him, "I saw an inverted world. Those above, i.e., those who are considered important in this world, were below, insignificant, while those below, i.e., those who are insignificant in this world, were above." So just remember that this passage is in the pages of Bava Batra that talks about tzedakah and why there are poor people in the world. And so Rabbi Yoshua said to him, you have seen a clear world. The world you have seen is the true world, one in which one's spiritual and moral standing determines their true importance. Rabbi Yoshua further asked him, and how did you see us, the Torah scholars, there? Yosef said to him, just as we are important here, we are important there. And also I heard that they say that blessed or joyful is the one who arrives with his study in hand. And I also heard that they were saying those executed by the government, aka martyrs, enjoy such exalted status that no one can stand in their section or in their presence. Gemara asks, who are these martyrs to whom Yosef was referring? If we say that he was referring to Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues, which we do mention on Yom Kippur and on Tisha B'Av, the 10 martyrs who were killed by the Roman Empire after the Second Rebellion, is their elevated status due only to the fact that they were martyred by the Roman government and nothing else more? And so therefore it is obvious that even without their martyrdom, they would have been greater than other people. Rather, it is referring to those like the martyrs of Lod, who died for the sanctification of God's name, but were not Torah scholars. So that's the concept of Elyonim Lamala v'Tachtonim Lamata, that those who are above in this world, considered above, meaning like they have a higher status, and we're switching now to the idea of it's not because of their wisdom or because of their Torah study, but because of their actual socioeconomic status, which is that the rich people here are not necessarily the people that are considered in the world to come. So I'll just read a very quick paragraph from Shabbat 55a. The Gemara relates that Rav Yehuda was sitting before Shmuel when this woman came and cried before Shmuel about an injustice that had been committed against her, and Shmuel paid no attention to her. Rav Yehuda said to Shmuel in admonishing tone, "Doesn't the master hold in accordance with the verse, 'Whoever stops his ears at the cry of the poor, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard,' which is a verse in Proverbs?" He said to him, well, his response was very sarcastic, but basically he admitted that he was wrong to not listen. And so the Tosfot on Ba'al Batra actually brings this story to explain that Elyonin Lamata, Tachtonin Lamata is based on the idea that that people here who are treated as important and special because of their socioeconomic status end up in the next world opposite. And so instead of Shmuel being the rabbi of Rav Yehuda, in the next world he saw an actual vision that Rav Yehuda was sitting, that Shmuel was sitting in front of Rav Yehuda as a student, and that's why they considered that Elonim Lamala v'Tachtonim Lamata, which means that even the Torah scholars were disregarded in the next world if they have committed a injustice in this world. And so obviously we are talking about the judgment, we are talking about the next world, we are talking about how the soul does go to the next world. And so we'll just read quickly what Peninei Halacha says about this. How a person is judged in Rosh Hashanah relates to their life in this world and the next. We have discussed the implications for this world in the previous sections and will yet discuss them further, but at present we will explain how the judgment of Rosh Hashanah relates to the next world. First, we must explain that life in the next world has two stages. And Jeff explained yesterday very clearly what we were discussing. The first stage begins with a person's death, when their soul ascends to the world of souls, where there is Gan Eden for the righteous and Gehinnom, hell for the wicked. And we believe that the maximum time that you spend in hell is 12 months. That's why we say Kaddish for 11 days and 11 months plus 1 day. The next stage is after the world reaches its perfection with the resurrection of the dead. At that time, souls will reunite with bodies, and together they will experience an infinite ascent. So on Shabbos morning, we have four very clear stages in our prayer. In the first blessing before the Shema, we say, En kerekecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh. There's nothing like you or equivalent to you, God, in this world. That there's nothing, that there's nobody besides you for the next world. The times of Mashiach and Tchiyat HaMetim. So that's, according to Maimonides, that those are the first stages of our life, that first we start with this world, then we go on to the next world, then we go on to the days of Mashiach, and then last but not least, we go to the resurrection of the dead. The next world, including both its stages, is also called the world of truth, because in contrast to this world where falsehood dominates and external appearances obscure internal essence, in the next world, the true status of a person, stature of a person, and the true worth of their deeds becomes clear. And because this is the Olam Ha'emet, the world of truth, then that's why it is like that. And we'll conclude with, since the next world is incomparably more important than this world. Okay, so just for example, somebody who died 1800 years ago, they had 70 or 80 years on this planet, and then they've been in Gan Eden for the last 1800 years. So obviously it's more important because it's the goal. As this world is like a corridor leading to the next world, which is from the tractate of Avot, or Ethics of Our Fathers, the judgment which occurs on Rosh Hashanah primarily relates to the next world. This judgment can be divided into two parts. The first takes into account all the deeds of the past year. For a person's good deeds, reward awaits him in the next world. For their evil deeds, punishment awaits them. But the judgment passed on Rosh Hashanah is not final. If they repented over the years, and they can save themselves from Gehinnom and increase their reward in the next world. And thank God, and I'll just end with this, thank God Hashem also allows us to elevate the soul from chamber to chamber, from being far from Hashem to being close to Hashem through our Torah study in their memory, which I think is incredible. There is no other religion in the world that has such a concept of Ilui Neshama. And so Rosh Hashanah, we don't say Yizkor, we say Yizkor on Yom Kippur, but it's because we believe that it's not final and that we can still contribute to their reward in the next world. If, God forbid, they regret the good deeds that they have done and wishes them undone, they will go to Gehinnom and lose the reward specifically that had been reserved for them in the next world. So we'll stop here. If anybody has any questions.